Okay. We done chapter 3 last week. So today we are going to finish chapter 4 and go to chapter 5. For chapter 4, not too much contents we want to talk about. So only two concepts. So that's why maybe we just need 2 hours to finish chapter 4 and go to chapter 5. All right? So for chapter 4, find out the title, Completing the Accounting Cycle. So for accounting cycle, 会计循环, chapter 4, we finish the last step, okay? So that's why it's not that too much content we want to cover. To complete the accounting cycle, our last step is closing the book, 结账. Okay, so that's the first thing you want to talk about. But closing the book, I just want to tell you the concept. How to do this in accounting ways means what's a journal entry we are going to use. I'll skip that part for you guys. So don't worry about how to use journal entries to closing the book. Okay? The second thing we want to talk about is extra point. It's not about accounting cycle. It's not. It's about every time when we made the errors, made the mistake, what should we do? Correct the error, okay? So the second thing is extra concept we want to talk about is correct errors. 更正错误. When you find out any errors, you have to correct the errors. Okay, so there's only two things we want to talk about from chapter 4. Okay, so let's look at accounting cycles first, 会计循环. From chapter 1 to chapter 4, so far, we just tell you the basic steps process we have for the whole accounting cycles. Okay, so the whole accounting cycles from your slide, page 4. Chapter 1, remember, we tell you when company have transactions, what should we do? Analyze transaction, right? And figure out how they affect our company's financial situations. So first step, analyze transactions from chapter 1. And what's the next? After we understand the effect, we record on 2 accounting books, right? So we generalize, record on our first accounting books, and post to our second book, T account, right? After that, we do our first double check. We prepare trial balance. So that's our first double check. Okay? But if you still remember, so far we just finished 90% transactions, right? So we only finish 90% transactions. Okay? So that's why from chapter 3, you are going to have a quiz Thursday, right? For chapter 3, what should we do? We use adjusting entries 调整分录, trying to finish the 10% transactions, right? Okay, so there's for 10% transactions we have. Then we do our second double check. We call it adjusted trial balance, 调整后试算表. So finally, you got 100% data we have, right? Then we use 100% data to do what? Our accounting purpose, produce our accounting products, right? So we prepare 4 financial statements, okay? So far from chapter 1 to chapter 3, we've done so many processes, right? Okay, so today, chapter 4, we try to finish the last step, okay? So the last step we have is closing the book. So that's our last step, closing the book. 结账. So after today, you complete the whole accounting cycles. So every time when we do accounting jobs, we just use the accounting cycles to finish everything, okay? Before we go to our last step, closing the book, do you know how often we do the process so far? Analyze transactions. How often we analyze the transactions? Every day, right? When transaction occurred, happen, we have to analyze the transaction, figure out how they affect your companies, right? So the transactions, your company have a transactions every day, right? So we analyze transaction every day, record on 2 accounting books every day. Then when we do our first time double check, it's quite hard to double check every day, right? So like what? When you double check your quiz, your final exam, before you submit your quiz paper, exam paper to me, when you do a double check, you complete the whole quiz paper, and before you submit it, you will do your double check, right? So you won't double check every time because they cost us much time to do that. So we do it on the last day of each period, right? So we double check it periodic, means each period, like last day of each month, last day of each quarter, last day of each year, okay? So when we use adjusted entries to record 10% transactions, last day, right? When you are forced to do it, okay, last day I have to finish all the things, so okay, I do it. So periodic on the last day of each period. When we prepare our financial statements, so far, impossible. We prepare monthly financial statement, impossible, because we cannot do that. We don't have much time to do that. So we have only quarterly, annually financial statements, 季报, 年报, okay? So we don't have a 月报, monthly financial statement. We cannot do that. Okay? So let's go to our closing the book. How often we close in the book? It's like when you can close in your accounting books and don't open anymore. After 1 year, right? So we closing our 2 accounting books, journal and ledger, when we finish the whole period 1 year, okay? So we do it once each year, so that's annually, okay? So today we just talk about this kind of things. We just do it once each year, closing the book. Then why we need to close in the book? You do it once each year. So on the last day of this year, on December 31st, you do it. Why? For next year, right? So we want to make everything be ready for next year, okay? So the purpose we close in the book is for next year. So why we need it for next year, okay? So here just want to tell you when we do it once each year, okay? For what? We want to make some accounts ready for next year. That's our purpose, closing the book. Make some account ready for next year, okay? So it's not every account, only some accounts. So right here, closing the book, not for every account, only for some accounts. We need to closing the book and make some account ready for next year, okay? So that's our purpose. Then maybe you are going to ask, okay, some account, what kind of account we need to close in the book? What else we don't need to close in the book? Let's look at two financial statements, then you will understand what kind of account we need to close in the book. What else we don't need to, okay? So for example, on your slide, page 6, this is balance sheet, right? Statement of financial position, 资产负债表. What kind of information you want to tell users? You want to provide from this? Balance sheet told you about asset, liability, and equities. Asset, liabilities, and equities. So what kind of information you want to provide? Financial positions, the company's value. Okay, so it's like on last day you take a photo. Okay, kata. Okay, what the company look like. So it's on the last day when you take a photo on the company, then show you the company's look like this, okay? So the company's value in this case, how much? Assets minus liabilities. You got the company's value is $130, okay? So here told you, on last day, your company's value is $130. So investors, outsiders, if they are interested in your company, they know the values, okay? So maybe they can base on the value to decide if they want to buy your company's, what price they are going to offer, okay? So here told you all the values companies have. Then, could you tell me? The numbers right here, they are only this year's number or they are accumulated since the company's first day to right now, maybe 10 years, maybe 20 years, maybe 30 years. The numbers right here for 1 year or for accumulating numbers. Which one? One year? Okay, Katie, let me ask you. It's value, right? So it's like what? I want to ask you, hey, Katie, how rich you are? So when you answer me how rich you are, you say, oh, I have 10 houses. I have 2 cars. I have 5 boyfriends. Oh, just kidding. So could you tell me 10 houses, 2 cars? Oh, how rich you are, 10 houses, 2 cars. It's only this year you have 10 houses, 2 cars. Or since your first day to right now, you have 2 houses, 2 cars. Which one? Since your first day, right? Since you born now, then your parents give you like 5 houses, like 1 car, right? Or like what? I ask you, hey, Amber, what's your value? Then you say, oh, my value. When you think about your value, it's things, or you will think about, okay, based on my age, 18 years old. So to right now, okay, what's my value so far, right? So it's not only this year, it's based on since your first day to right now, totally they build up your values, right? Okay, so when we talk about the values, it's not only 1 year. When we talk about the values, there's since your first day to right now. They make what you are today, okay? So make you what you are today, of course, it's not only 1 year. Okay, so remember all the numbers here, they are accumulated, okay? Since the first day to right now, there's accumulating numbers. Any questions? No problem? Okay, so remember, every time when we talk about value, they always is not based on 1 day, 1 year, okay? That's based on long term, long time to build up, to make who you are today, okay? So the same for the companies. So how about another financial statement? Statement of comprehensive income. What kind of information we want to provide to users? Whether your company made a profit or not this year, right? So here I told you, revenue minus expenses, you got net income. Our profit, part one, right? Then consider OCI, other comprehensive income. Surprise gain or loss, that's our part two. So totally, what's our overall profits this period, this year, okay? So this year, you made a profit or not. This year, you do your business, sell the product, provide the service, whether you made the money or not, okay? So based on this, could you tell me the numbers only for this year, or they are accumulated since the first day to right now, maybe 10 years, 20 years? Which one? 1 year? Yeah, 1 year. So this period, this year, you sell the product, then you made the profit. How much? So only for 1 year. Okay? So do you find out the difference? Even though the number is $100, but they are different meaning, okay? When we talk about assets, I have the cash $100. Means what? Oh, since the first day to right now, maybe 18 years, I totally have the cash. How much? $100. Okay, so that 100 means maybe 18 years. Okay, for totally 18 years, you got cash 100. But we talk about revenue, expenses, dividends. We talk about the profit. They're only for 1 year. So what does it mean for the 100? It means this year, your company sell the product, provide the services, you earn the revenue from customers only $100 this year, okay? So they are different. Any questions? No problem? So you have to understand same number. Actually, they are not the same meaning, okay? So based on this, let you guess which financial statement we need to do closing the book, 结账. We need to make the accounts on the financial statements ready for next year. Balance sheet or statement of comprehensive income. Which one? Their accounts we have to do closing the book to make their accounts ready for next year. Balance sheet, statement of comprehensive income. Which one? Statement of comprehensive income. We do closing the book, make the accounts ready for next year. Okay? Why? For example, I have cash. That's from balance sheet, right? So if I have the cash, this account, then on the first day, 2025, I have a cash 100. Then February 1st, 2025, I have a cash 50. Then on the last day, 2025, I have a cash 20. So totally, you have the cash on 2025. How much? $170, right? Okay. So how about next year? If next year, 2026, I have another $30. So this number, cash, the numbers is accumulated or only for 1 year. Cash, the number is accumulated or only for 1 year. Accumulated, right? We accumulate our assets, then tell them, okay, how rich we are, right? So the numbers, they are accumulated. So when I have the more cash next year, I just put it right here, right? So I can just continue to add up my cash, right? So maybe next year I have the cash. It's like February 1st, 2026. I have another cash, $30. How about last day, December 31st, 2026? I have the cash, $40. So I totally have the cash, how much? $240. This number is accumulated for 2 years, right? So this number is accumulated for many years, okay, for 2 years in this case, okay. So any problems? No problems, because my cash, I accumulate, I add up my cash each year, and totally I know how much the cash I have, right? So how about revenues? So for example, I have the service revenues. If I told you on the first day, I earned the revenues, $10. February 1st, 2025, I earned the revenues, $5. On the last day, 2025, I earned the revenues, $3. So could you tell me, 2025, what's the revenue we've earned? $18, right? Okay. So here I know for year 2025, your company earned the revenues. How much? $18. Okay? How about next year? Don't forget, when we want to know the revenues for next year, okay, it's only for 1 year numbers. So I want to know the numbers for year 2026. Should I add up the number together with the year 2025? No, right? If I continue like this way, I add up the number. If I have revenues in 2026, first day, for example, second day, for example, $5. If I add up, I just write down $5 right here. What's the problem? They will be added together, accumulated, right? So that's a big problem, because the revenues, we just want to know the number only for 1 year. So what should we do? We start from 0 again, right? And add up the number only for 2026. So the problem is, for 2026, we should start up, we should start up the number from 0 and continue to add up the revenues. Okay? The revenues only for year 2026. Okay? So what's the problem? I have the data on service revenues, this account already, but I have to start up from 0 for next year. Okay? So how to make $18 and 0? How to make this situation? That's the reason we need closing the book. Okay? So closing the book, because we want to make this account ready for next year. So because of these situations, we need to closing the book. 结账 for what? To make accounts ready for next year. Okay? So we need to make this account become 0. Then this account could continue to use to include the data only for next year, 2006. Okay, so there's a reason, the purpose, we have to close in the book 结账. Okay, any questions? Okay. So we close in the book only for some account. This account include data only for 1 year. Okay. For the others, the other accounts, when their accounts are accumulated, we skip it. You don't care about this one. Okay. Because they are accumulated, so we don't need to close in the book. Okay. So let's go back to slide right here. So we close in the book for what? To make beginning balance of this year become 0, right? Okay. So we want to make the beginning balance of next year become 0 in order to include the data only for 1 year. So how to, so this is why we need to close in the book. Make the numbers become 0. Then next year, we start from 0 to continue include the data only for next year. Okay? That's why we only do it once each year, because ready for next year, right? So ready for next year, of course, we just do it once on the last day of each year. Okay? So only for some account. What kind of account? This account on your statement of comprehensive income, right? This account include only 1 year data. So we close in the book only on revenue, expenses, and dividends. Dividends, the account also include the data for 1 year. So revenues, expenses, and dividends, their data only for 1 year. Okay? Because their data only for 1 year, that's why we need to close in the book. So here told you closed means close in the book. And this kind of accounts, because their data only for 1 year, so we call this situation, their accounts are temporary account. Temporary account means data only for 1 year. Temporary accounts, 临时账户. Also, you can call them nominal account, 虚账户. So temporary account, nominal account, means the data only for 1 year. So for this kind of temporary accounts, revenue, expenses, dividends, we need to close in the book. Okay, make it ready for next year. How about the other? Asset, liability, equities. Their numbers are accumulated, right? So they are accumulated. Assets, liabilities, equities. They are accumulated. Okay? Accumulated over years. So do we need to close in the book? We don't need to, okay? So for this kind of accounts, we don't need to close in the book. So not closed. We don't need to close in the book. So no, close in the book. Okay? And we call them permanent account, 永久账户. What does it mean? The data we put into this account, they will stay there forever. So that's permanent, 永久账户. Okay, permanent account, or you can call them real account, 实账户. Permanent, the data stay there permanent. 永久账户, the data we keep it forever. Okay? Okay. So, okay. So let's look at the case. If I have a service revenues this year, 2025, I worked so hard, so I earned the revenues from customers, how much? $20,000, okay? But how about next year? Don't forget, next year we should start from 0. Try to get the data only for 2026, right? So how to make the data to $20,000 become 0? That's why we need to close in the book. Close in the book, we try to make the data become 0. Okay? So when we do that, remember when we do this kind of things? On the last day of each year, right? Why? Because we want to make this account ready for next year. So on the last day of each year, purpose, try to make this account become 0. Why? Ready for next year, right? So we make some accounts become 0. So it's not every account. Some accounts become 0, okay? Why? When they become 0, they can ready for next year. Okay? Some account, which account? Revenue, expenses, dividends, right? So which account? Revenue, expenses, dividends. Okay? So revenue, expenses, dividends, they are our temporary accounts, 临时账户. Okay? So temporary accounts, revenue, expenses, and dividends. Only for temporary account. We don't do closing the book on permanent account. Okay? No problem? Okay. The next problem is $20,000. This is our money, right? Could you? Can you? $20,000. You work so hard for the whole year. You just throw it away. So, I need to make the account ready for next year. So I decide I have a $20,000 revenues and just throw it away. Oh, impossible. How could you do that? So actually, crossing the book, we did not just use erasers to make a number become zero. Impossible. Every number you find out here, they are your money. So actually, we do what? Oh my God. We transfer the money to somewhere, safe place. This place will keep the money forever. So forever means what? Permanent account 永久账户. So which permanent account 永久账户 can keep your revenue, expenses, dividends at the same time? More details? Retained earnings, right? Remember how to get retained earnings. Revenue minus expenses minus dividends, okay? So only one place, only one account, permanent account can keep revenue, expenses, dividends numbers at the same time, which is retained earnings, okay? So actually, we did not just throw number away. That's our money. We transfer the money to set place, permanent place, retained earnings, okay? So we just transfer the number to our retained earnings using, everything we want to do in accounting entry. This entry about closing the book, so we call it closing entries, 结账分录. So what's our purpose? Closing entries. We just want to transfer our data, money. So we transfer what? Revenues, expenses, and dividends. To where? To retain earnings. Okay? So closing the book, actually, we just transfer the money from revenue, expenses to dividends. Okay? So you can find out I have the revenues right here and transfer the money from sales revenues to here. So I have here is about your revenues. Even though here we don't have a data for expenses and dividends, when you transfer expenses and dividends to retained earnings, which side you can find out your expenses and dividends? Debit or credit? Expenses and dividends, when we transfer to retained earnings, you can find out dividends, expenses on debit or credit side. Debit side, right? Remember, revenues make your retained earnings increase on the same side. Dividends, expenses make your retained earnings decrease on debit side, right? The opposite side. So if you have expenses and dividends, you can find out expenses and dividends right here. Okay? Any questions? So based on this, right now, you know what's the official correct formula for your retained earnings. When you want to get the amount of retained earnings, what is the correct formula? Retained earnings, the final number balance is $30,000. How to get $30,000? Beginning, I have a $10,000. Right now, I have a revenues $20,000. Also, consider expenses and dividends will make your retained earnings decrease. That's how you got final number $30,000. Okay, so for retained earnings, how you can get $30,000 is $10,000, right? Plus revenues $20,000. Then expenses and dividends will make your retained earnings decrease, right? Okay, so make it correct formula is ending balance, ending retained earnings, 期末保留盈余 is what? 10,000 is on the first day, right? So it's beginning retained earnings, 期初保留盈余 then minus expenses, minus dividends. Oh, sorry, I have a revenues, I forgot. So plus revenues. Minus expenses, minus dividend. Okay? So when I want to know our retained earnings, the final number, don't forget, is beginning retained earnings plus revenues minus expenses minus dividends. Okay? Okay, if you're done already, even though I don't require you to write down closing entries, but if you understand the concepts, let you guess closing entries, what's the debit, what's the credit, let you guess, to achieve the purpose we have. So what's the purpose we have? Transfer the data to retained earnings, right? So make your revenue, expenses, dividends become zero. How to make revenue, expenses, dividends become zero? If I have the data right here, I have the data right here. How to make it become zero? Accounting, quite simple. How to make the number become zero? Put same amount on the opposite side, right? Because I have a $20,000 here. If I put same amount on the opposite side, so it means what? Here is plus, here is minus, right? So when I have plus right here, I have a minus right here, that means what? Become zero. Okay, so accounting is quite easy. How to make the number become 0? Same amount on the opposite side become 0. Okay, so first thing is what? Put same amount on the opposite side. So you are going to put same amount. Oh. Put same amount on the opposite side. Okay? When you put same amount on the opposite side, become 0. Then, what's the next? You know, revenues make your retained earnings increase. Expenses, dividends make your retained earnings decrease, right? So the second one is what? Your retained earnings increase the same amount as revenues. Your expenses, dividends may we write down retained earnings decrease. Okay, so we make retained earnings increase the same amount as revenues. We make retained earnings decrease the same amount as expenses and dividends. So there's a concept we have right here. Okay, so let's look at the closing entry for your, just take a look. But even though you don't know how to write down closing entry, it's okay. Because closing entry is quite very basic accounting jobs. So if you, in the future, you really will do accounting jobs and do very basic process, maybe you need to understand it. Otherwise, if you don't know closing entry, it's okay. So just take a look. Based on the concept, what's the journal entry we have, then I'll let you take a break. So here on your chapter 4, page, here, page 6. So here is our closing entries we have, 结账分录. So page 6, here is our closing entry, 结账分录. So remember, what is our purpose? We make revenue, expenses, dividends become 0, right? How to make it become 0? Put same amount on the opposite side. So for our revenues, we put same amount on the opposite side, right? So did you find out is opposite side, right? Revenue should be on credit, but right now we put it on debit. So opposite side, we could make it become 0. So for your expenses, we put they on opposite side. Oh, opposite. Okay? Then you can make your expenses become 0. How about dividends? The same. We put on the opposite side. Then you can make your dividends become 0. Okay? So did you find out? There's our logic. Revenue, expenses, dividends. We make it become 0. Right now, we transfer the data to where? Retained earnings, right? So revenues will make your retained earnings increase on credit side. So we put retained earnings on credit side because revenue will make your retained earnings increase on credit side. Expenses will make your retained earnings decrease on debit side. Dividends will make your retained earnings decrease on debit side. See? So there's a crossing entries we have to make revenue, expenses, dividends become zero. Also, transfer their data to retained earnings. Okay, so the concept is right here, but I won't test you crossing entries, 结账分录. So even though you don't know how to write down crossing entries, 结账分录 is okay. Okay, so that's it for first hour. Let's take a break.